Trans originally stood for transsexual. When I was younger, people thought that they would have a sex change, or it was defined as a sex change when I was younger. Then people realized that you couldn't change a person's sex, but you could change a person's gender, because sex is what you're biologically born and gender is what society deems that biology to mean. So then that's where transgender came from. And for a while, transgender was synonymous with transsexual, going from male to female or female to male. At a point, transgender turned into absolutely anything. But true transsexual people still do exist. And if you think that you're born in the wrong body, or your brain tells you that you were born in the wrong body, what could that be other than mental illness? And I don't mean that at all as an insult to transsexual people. I don't mean that as an insult to mentally ill people. I am a huge proponent of mental health. I never shame anybody about their mental health. I'm very big on that. But what's happened with transgender to me, with people identifying as things that really do have a diagnosis to them, because gender dysphoria is the way that they describe it, as far as people being actual transsexual and having the need for medical intervention and at the very least therapy to deal with what it is they're going through mentally because of being transsexual, or transgender as they put it nowadays. So for me, the people that are mad because they identify as these things, but they don't claim to deal with gender dysphoria on any level, are the real problem in this situation. Because it would be the same as if I said I was bipolar. I identify as bipolar. Never mind the fact that I'm not bipolar. Never mind the fact that a doctor has never diagnosed me as bipolar. I just decided that it was cool to be bipolar, so I'm going to identify as bipolar. And this is the way a bipolar person dresses, and this is the way a bipolar person thinks, and I am proud to be bipolar. And I'm like, this isn't a mental illness. It's just an identity for me. I think it's cute to be bipolar. There's no reason that I should need medication because I'm bipolar. There's no reason that I should need therapy because I'm bipolar. I just identify as bipolar because it's more fun than the boring life that I have right now of not being bipolar. Bipolar is exciting. Bipolar is fun. Bipolar is where it's at. Bipolar pride. 100% that's me, bipolar. And then an actual bipolar person is like, hey, I'm actually dealing with something over here. I need medication. I need therapy. I need to be taken care of. I need for the government to be able to cover these things that I may or may not be able to afford, but I definitely do need. And there are certain allowances that I need, and there are certain treatments that I need to have access to, that if I don't have this diagnosis that is a medical and a clinical diagnosis, I will possibly be a danger to myself or others, which is what a lot of true people that are gender dysphoric really go through. They do actually, in some cases, deal with thoughts of unaliving themselves or just everyday depression, because in their minds, nature has made this huge mistake and they are not able to live as their authentic selves. People can argue back and forth whether or not that's genuine. I know from seeing certain people and having certain friends that that really is a thing. A lot of my friends used to get checks from the state as well. They got what was called a GR check, which became known as a crazy check. That's what they used to call it on the streets. So they would get a certain amount of money that was sort of like a welfare, because since they had a disability with their gender dysphoria, and at the time society wouldn't really hire trans people, they needed some assistance. And the check wasn't enough for them to live off, for sure. I think the checks my friends used to get were around $400 a month, if I remember correctly. And there were certain services that they had access to, like I believe they had access to Section 8, but if you know the list with Section 8 housing, that's a whole nother story. So we won't get into that, but there were certain things that they needed help with. So that's why it's important that the government be able to cover these things. But when you decide to turn what's an actual diagnosis into just a fun way to identify, that's where the problem comes in.